Hey, 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 beautiful people, and welcome back to another soulful session of Mondays with Mondane. This is where we dive deep into the rhythm of life, love, and liberty. And I'm your host, you guessed it, Edie Mondane, and I'm ready to groove through the beats of the week with you. And today we're going to delve into the question, is the conflict between Israel and Gaza genocide or not? We'll let you decide. So put on your serious face and hat and let's listen and think together. Why don't we? Today, we have a very special guest and a dear friend who's 82 now, and by the time you see this podcast, he's going to be 83, old. And he's joined us tonight, Mr. Paul Block. He's a veteran in the world of comedy and talk shows with an illustrious career spanning 45 years in television and internet production. Paul has worked on the iconic shows like The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. You know who he is, right? The Late Show on Fox, and the George and Alana Show with George Hamilton and Alana Stewart. All those big people. He's also been involved in producing TV specials for HBO and Showtime, featuring renowned artists like Stephen Wright, Jeff Foxworthy, and Elvis Costello. Currently, he's enjoying retirement, and he keeps busy administering 3 Facebook pages, including the political page, Open Fire Politics, and Entertainment. Being a guest producer, being a guest producer for Mondays with Mondane. He's writing his memoirs. He's copying off of me, y'all, and cherishing his role as a grandfather like me. He's copying me in Portland. In a recent conversation, Paul objected to labeling the conflict between Israel and Gaza as genocide. He also shares his perspective on why Joe Biden should distance himself from Netanyahu's leadership and offers suggestions for a more nuanced approach to the ongoing tensions in the region. Tension? That's a small word. Paul advocates for stopping the war, aiding victims, and transforming Gaza into a UN-declared international protectorate. He emphasizes the importance of addressing issues such as Israeli settlements in the West Bank, the need for the effective Palestinian Authority, and ensuring equal rights for all Israeli citizens. Now, here we go. Despite the challenges, Paul remains a committed Zionist and believes, I can't believe he told me he was a Zionist, and he believes in the potential for positive change with the support of the United States and the international community. Got to have that help. He emphasizes the significance of Israel as a sovereign nation and its role as a beacon of democracy in the Middle East. It's got to cast a light all across it. Now, let's delve deeper into Paul's insights, and we'll explore with him the complexities of the Israel-Gaza conflict. We formulated 5 questions to kick off our discussion. Number 1 is, you mentioned the need, Paul.
Let me start.
Let him start.
Let
him start.
Okay.
He's getting ready to go off, y'all.
No, I'm not going to go off.
Okay,
Let me just start
go.
off by saying when I was a little kid growing up in New York, my mother and father decided they didn't want me playing stickball. So they sent me off to Hebrew school. And when I was a little kid, they had something, little boxes to collect money in every place around the synagogue and the Hebrew school called Keren Ami. And that was money for a friend. And all you were doing those days was putting in money to help the state of Israel. And they talked about planting trees and rescuing the desert and doing that kind of stuff. And from that moment on, being Jewish, looking at what was going on in the Second World War, looking at what was going on with the Holocaust against the Jews, I started immediately to believe in the absolute necessity of a state of Israel. And so I've been a Zionist since I'm 8 years old.
You know, I forgot to welcome Paul to the show. And he welcomed himself. You know, he makes himself at home. As a matter of fact, he's one of our producers. Listen, you mentioned the need for Joe Biden.
Now welcome me to the show.
I'm welcoming you to the show, Paul.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here. You mentioned the need for Joe Biden to break with Netanyahu.
I did.
Can you elaborate on why you believe this is necessary for resolving the conflict?
Because I believe Netanyahu to be a corrupt thief, very much in the same way as other people in this country are corrupt thieves trying to stay out of jail by running the country. I believe Netanyahu's desperate to remain the prime minister of Israel so he can stay out of trial and out of jail. He's been accused of bribery and of betraying the trust of the Israeli people. And that's when all those riots were happening in the streets for him to get the hell out.
You mean an insurrectionist?
No, rioters. They weren't. They were just rioting. They were demonstrating and saying, "Get rid of Netanyahu. Go to jail. He's a crook." Mm-hmm. Okay. Then all of a sudden, conveniently, the Hamas is able, without anybody knowing about it, to cross the border and do what they did on October 7th. I blame Netanyahu for that too. But I think Netanyahu wanted this war so he can stay in power. That's my opinion.
What specific steps, do you propose for transforming Gaza into the UN-declared international protectorate that it ought to be, according to your thoughts? And how do you envision Arab armies overcoming the region?
Well, it's easy.
Or overseeing the region.
It's easy to overcome it. I mean, at this point in time, the Lakers could overcome that area. I mean, they've been so destroyed.
Yeah.
But I envision the end of Hamas. I envision as many good Arab armies as want to put up people to go in there, enforce the law, and protect the people. That can be done. All they got to do is sit down, have meetings, agree to do it, and agree with the United States and agree with Israel. This is what we're going to do. We're going into Gaza. It's going to be a protectorate. Get the Israeli army out, and we are going to oversee it, and we're going to make sure Hamas has no power in Gaza.
How do we enforce that?
They do. They got guns. They got bullets.
Yeah,
they got tanks.
But we see that is you're right. They've got guns, they've got bullets, they've got tanks,
and they will win the hearts of the Gaza people because they will be the first time the people in Gaza ever had any hope of being a productive, peaceful society.
I agree with that. What do you think Netanyahu's real gain is in terms of just wanting to stay in power?
Staying out of jail.
And?
Money?
I think money is a big part of it.
Absolutely. They want to put him in jail for bribery. I mean, it's all
money for who? Who's he going to generate all this money for? He's got real good friends like Putin, and
I'm not so sure of that, but he's got real good friends like Trump.
Or him too.
And actually, he's got a real good friend in Biden. They've been friends for many years. Mm-hmm. And I think that's partly why the United States allowed itself to get into this quicksand of what's going on there. I think if Biden wasn't friends with Netanyahu, he would have stopped right at the beginning and he would have said, okay, tell me what you're going to do. If you're going to use American weapons and American money to go in there, you better tell me what to do, what you're going to do.
Do you think Netanyahu was really a sincere friend from the gate, or did he just kind of traipse around?
No, I believe they were friends for years. Don't forget, Biden's been doing this kind of stuff for 45 years.
I think we've forgotten that.
Yeah, and Netanyahu's been some running it or way up there for the past, 25, 30 years?
What do you think the turning point was?
Which one?
The one that turned him into this vigorous seeker of evil.
Well, I think that he started to lose the support of the people who do not want the Israelis. Jews aren't right-wingers in general.
Yeah.
And I think he started to lose the support of the people, and he started to look for the support of the right-wingers and the super fundamentalist religious people. Fundamentalist religious Jews in Israel are just as screwed up as fundamental evangelical Christians are in the Midwest.
Say that. You highlighted the issue of Israeli settlements in the West Bank.
I do.
How do you suggest addressing this contentious issue?
I suggest that.
But we've got to ensure peaceful resolution.
I suggest that we have a platoon of the Israeli Defense Forces whose job it is to go to these settlements and say, okay, pack up and go back to Israel. And that's it. You don't want to do it, we'll put you in jail. There's no right for those settlements to be there. They shouldn't be there. And by Israeli law, Israeli power, the Israeli Defense Forces, they should be pushed out of the West Bank, and they should be put back in Israel. The West Bank should be Palestine, and it should be a state. Gaza should not be a part of that state. Gaza should be an international protectorate, in my opinion. By the way, if they ever settle down and didn't have craziness on their mind, Gaza has, 20, 30, 40, 100 miles of coastline on the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they could build some hotels there, put in some sand, and make a whole lot of money.
Well, you mean like Las Vegas?
Like Las Vegas,
Yeah.
or like Malibu, or like any place that's on a nice beach, and rather than being bombed out crazy place.
Well, when you think about Gaza as a protectorate and Israel and Palestine being states, so the two-state issue is really something that we should consider very heavily.
There's no solution without it, in my opinion.
I don't think so either.
The only solution without it, in my opinion, is if Jordan says, okay, we know we pushed the Palestinians out of Jordan. We know we pushed them to the West Bank. We're going to take them back. Jordan will now be from the West Bank east. It used to be, remember Transjordan?
Yeah.
Okay, and then a lot of Palestinians came in and they were starting problems for the Jordanian government. So the Jordanian government chased them out, which in itself might have been a little bit of a Holocaust, I might add.
Well, which brings me to this. You talk about it not being genocide.
I do.
What is the difference there for you? He's got it. He's got it.
This is my Johnny Carson approach.
Okay.
Okay, in the dictionary.
Okay.
The real dictionary.
Educate us, Paul.
A genocide is the deliberate killing of large numbers of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. That's not what's happening.
Annihilating it.
What's happening now is they are going after a small group of people, but they're doing it poorly. They're using a mallet rather than an X-Acto knife.
Yeah, but isn't it still annihilation at the end of the day?
But it's not deliberate.
I don't know how deliberate it can be. I mean, we're going and bombing the hell out of the people.
That's
and then,
not deliberate. That's not deliberately
and we're
aimed.
not feeding them. We're making them starve. I mean, what is
That's
that?
all aimed at trying to get rid of Hamas.
Yeah. How big is Hamas?
I also want to say that
Tell us about Hamas.
I don't know much about them. I think there are 30,000 of them that are in Gaza that are running the place.
But they've killed over 30,000 Palestinians.
What happened? Okay, I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's bad.
Okay.
I'm saying it's thuggery.
But it's not genocide.
But it's not genocide.
Okay.
Genocide has to be the intentional murder or deportation or exportation of an entire group of people in order to exterminate them, to get rid of them. This is not what the Israelis are trying to do. What they're trying to do is kill Hamas, but they're killing a lot of other people in that effort. A whole lot of other people that they should have been more careful to not kill, but I don't consider that genocide. I could also give you the United Nations definition of genocide, which this doesn't fit either.
That's okay.
Genocide's the intentional destruction of a people, in whole or in part. In 1948, the United Nations Genocide Convention defined genocide as any of 5 acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. That's not what's going on. They're after Hamas.
Well, you talked about having some examples of other people who were deliberate topics of deliberate targets of genocide.
I've done my homework.
Okay, tell me about it.
This is 20th century genocides and holocausts. In Myanmar, the Rohingya people. In the Middle East, ISIS going out to eliminate the Yazidi people. In Sudan, eliminating the Darfur people. And this is being done by race and tribe and that kind of stuff. We want to eliminate them. The Hutus in Zaire, the Rwandans, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, killing the Bosnian genocide that we went in to bomb, by the way. East Timor. The Chechen deportation by Russia is considered a genocide. The Holocaust of the Jews by the Germans is the most famous one. But the genocide against the Soviets also existed. The Germans killing whatever Soviets were in their possession. They just killed them all.
Yes.
In Croatia, genocide against the Serbs. In Germany, genocide against the Gypsies. In Ukraine, the Russian, they called it the Holodomor, where they took all the food away from the Ukrainians so that they would starve to death. And I think like 4 or 6 million of them were starved to death. Armenia, the Greeks and the Turks both had their way with the Armenians. Now those are some of the 40 or so that I saw.
Yeah.
But all of those had something in common, and that was the deliberate destruction of a people.
But I tell you what, regardless of whether it's genocide or homicide,
That I'm with you there.
you know, it's tragic.
I object to the use of the word genocide because that's a trigger.
That was my next question.
That's a hot
What is a
button.
trigger?
Well, that means everybody in the world thinks you're killing people that are innocent.
So why shouldn't they think that? That's what they're doing.
Yeah, well, it's in the intent.
Okay.
They're not, in my opinion, they're not intentionally killing Gazans. They're killing Gazans, and I hate to say it, as collateral damage in chasing Hamas.
Well, you mentioned the importance of Israel's role as a staunch ally of the United States.
Yes.
How does that stand? How does that stand to prove?
Well, it still stands, but it's been hurt bad by this Gaza excursion.
Yeah.
Israel is a staunch ally to be proud of when they stand with unshakable moral character, moral high ground.
Do you see the relationship between the United States and Israel evolving in the coming years? I mean, because right now, it's a big sore.
What I see is Netanyahu going away. What I see is Israel withdrawing to their borders. I see a second state called Palestine. I see the settlements gone, and I see the American relationship with Israel back to a good thing. And I see I see our need for a strong, independent, morally upright Israel in the Middle East growing all the time.
I certainly hope you're right, Paul.
I hope I'm right too.
You talked about the box that.
I'm not a fortune teller. I'm telling you what I hope for.
Well, I don't think that any of us are fortune tellers. We can only hope and pray for the best. And I'm hoping, and let's not kid ourselves. None of us really understand it all. Even though we really want to believe that
like
we
I
do.
said, I grew up with Israel.
Yeah.
And I always felt a silver strand between me and that country.
Yeah.
But I don't understand it, and they're doing the most they can right now to cut away at that silver strand.
You talked about you being taught the value of being committed to Israel and to the whole principle in which it stood and its people. As a committed Zionist, how do you reconcile your support for Israel with your critique of Netanyahu's leadership in the current state of affairs that's going on in the region?
I guess in some way, as I can remain an American patriot, despite Donald Trump and the Republicans and what they're trying to do to our freedom and the rest of the world.
Hear, hear.
But those are some of my tribal people over there, and I got to work the best I can to get them to come back to a moral high ground. And I don't consider this Israel's war, by the way. Mm-hmm. I consider this Netanyahu's war.
I agree.
And I think he's pushing it, and he won't give an inch because he needs it to go so he doesn't go to jail. So he doesn't get on trial like Trump and go to jail. Trump is trying to become president so he doesn't go to jail. Netanyahu is trying to stay president so he doesn't go to jail. So he is promulgating the war. The other people that I think that are promulgating the war in Israel, and I hate to say this, but it's the fundamentalist religious people who want to have full power, full authority, full control over that entire area. Yeah. They're the ones. If you look at those settlements out in the West Bank, these Jewish settlements, these are the religious people that are doing it. The religious people, by the way, in Israel are all draft dodgers. They don't have to join the Army. There's a thing if you're some sort of proclaimed a religious person and you wear the right kind of hat and you study the right kind of things, you don't have to join the Army. So you have 75% of the country having to fight to support and protect that 25% that doesn't want to fight, won't train, won't aid, you won't serve soup to the damn Army when they need it.
Wow.
I am not a fan of, aside from you, I am not a fan of religion.
Here, here. And guess what? I'm not a fan of religion either. I'm a fan of the agape that God brings into the equation with community and people. You know, we talked about, there's a big argument in church right now, not in church, but there's a popular gospel artist that made quite a rock in the, I won't mention his name, but I don't want to get into that conversation, but he talked about the church being whack and all of this kind of stuff. Jesus never came to destroy the church. He came to restore the church and make it what it ought to be. And I think that what you and I are talking about is restoring the world and making it a place where everybody can be a part. Now,
By the way, Jesus came to restore the Jewish church.
Yes, he did.
Just for the record.
And the Church of the Blacks, too.
Yes. I agree. I agree. I would love to go back 2,000 years and see what Jesus really looked like.
You know, he looked like me, Paul.
I don't think so. I think he was a little lighter than you and a little darker than me.
Okay. Well,
that's what I think, but I don't really know.
You know, I can buy that one.
I think.
You sold that one good. So there you have it, folks. Whether it's homicide or genocide.
It's homicide. It's not genocide. I'll give you that definition again.
It's both wrong. And
Absolutely.
The beat goes on, but it's up to us to keep the rhythm of democracy alive.
And write your congressman.
We are the people, and there's we is just not a French word. It's a Unitarian word that brings us all together as a community. We. There's power in what our voices have to say. There's power in what Paul believes. There's power in what you believe, whether or not it's homicide, whether or not it's genocide. You know, it doesn't make any difference. People are losing their lives for the selfish reasons of one or two other peoples. Let's do this together, people. And until next time, I want you to stay groovy, stay woke, and keep spreading that love. Thank you for joining me today, Paul.
Say good night, Paul. Just say good night, Paul.
Oh, he was going to say good night, Paul. And never waver in the pursuit of justice, folks. This is Edie Mondinay, and I'm signing out. Oh, I forgot. We have a special shout out to our sponsors. Poshine's, not just a restaurant.
Let me say that Poshine's has the most incredible soul food I've had.
Wow. And you got that from, he likes the brisket. It's an institution, people. We're right here.
Brisket. I miss the Jewish delis of New York, and the brisket here is better than that.
But we don't have rutabagas.
Neither did the Jewish delis.
It's 8131. It's 8139 North Denver. It's right here in the historic Kenton District, and you can expect, just like Paul said, the best soul food this side of Willamette. We have aunties and tanties daycare services, and of course,
I cannot vouch for them, but I'll believe you on that one.
Well, you know, you need to go over there and sit one day.
Okay, I will.
They need grandpas in there.
Right, okay.
Adorn Electric.
I have used the services of Adorn Electric, and they are terrific.
Do they light up your life?
They lit up my life and my hallway.
I'm grateful for our sponsor support on this podcast. And you can visit me right here at Celebration Tabernacle at 8131 North Denver in the Portland, Oregon area. Now, I want to give a special thank you to our technical staff, Dion, Robin, Andy, and Paul. Not one of them is bigger than the other, and they all stand tall. These are the guys who make this podcast possible, and Paul keeps me on a short leash. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and followers, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing from Mondays with Mondinay. And be sure to follow us on Facebook. I think that's on my right side, and YouTube. Did I do it right? And I want to use this in concluding the episode that we have today. Stay awoke, stay cool, and stay alert.
I have one thing to say.
Yes.
L'chaim.
L'chaim mishpachah. Adios. Hey, gang, I've got exciting news. I've just finished my memoirs, and writing them was, wow, a roller coaster, but I'm glad that I did it for me and for you, and it's a way to get to know Edie Montané just a little bit better. What you thought you knew, you didn't know. It's called From Maladies to Melodies, growing up in the South St. Louis projects, and what God has done in my life even to this day. I'm excited to share it with you. Please look for it coming real soon.
Hey, it's time for you to come to Post Shine. Check out that catfish sandwich. Oh my goodness, is that the shrimp po' boy? Man, look at that chocolate chip cake. Man, I need to get over to Post Shine's at 8139 North Denver right now because this food looks delicious. Or call if you'd like, 503-978-9000. And don't miss it, you'll be sorry.
In times gone past, we find ourselves making excuses so that people remind that, ooh, I've got to get home and tend to the brand new missus. I need some time alone. Can't this wait until I finish texting on my phone?